Okay, well, good evening, everybody. It is 6:30 on February 12th, and we're here for the Finance Committee meeting. And I'd like to welcome Counselor Jordan, Counselor Ocasio, Counselor Sullivan, and Counselor Givner. I'd like to take a motion to take up item 1.
So moved.
Before we do that,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if we have some, I don't know if this is a point of order, if we have something that's tabled, could we move to take it off the table?
I think you can only do that in ordinance. And what is it that you want to table if we're prepared to have somebody in?
Yeah, well, we've had 2 executive sessions, and we've had something tabled here in the committee. I'd like to bring it out and, send it,
Go ahead.
and send it to the council for the next meeting.
Is it something that we need more information on? Have
No,
somebody in? Why don't you mention what it is, and then we can
So
take a motion and take it up. But why don't, want to do the minutes first, unless it's, since we already...
whatever your pleasure.
We've already made that motion. So does anybody have any problem with the minutes of January 31st?
No. Motion to
Okay.
approve.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Counselor Sullivan, go ahead.
Okay, so we have a item tabled for a transfer of $300,000 from stabilization to legal, I believe. I'd like to take that off the table and bring it forward for a vote.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to do that?
I think I just made the motion.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is there a second?
Second.
Under discussion. Counselor Givner?
Doesn't the city council have to pull it out of committee from the council side?
If I remember correctly, ordinance and finance are the only ones that can pull it out of
Gotcha.
committee, if memory
No,
serves me
yeah,
correct.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so, did you want to mention anything else, or we take a vote now?
No, I would make a motion to deny the transfer.
Well, excuse me, just for my own information, do you want to take it out of committee, deny the transfer, and then bring it to the city council?
Yes.
You don't want to just bring it to the city council without a recommendation from the finance committee. Because what can happen in the finance committee, if you get a lopsided vote, say, it's not going to go anywhere. So again, I'm just telling you what could happen. I'm not saying it will happen.
Well, right now, my feeling is to deny it, and if that fails our committee, fine, somebody wants to make another motion to send without a recommendation,
Anybody have any suggestions, or?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I'll second the motion because I'm currently against it, so.
Okay. So then,
we can send it out, yeah,
I think the motion would be to
refer it back to the council.
refer it back to the council and take a vote here as to who's going to deny it, who's going to accept it. Okay. So moved. So we'll take a vote to see who wants to deny it. Counselor Sullivan?
Yes.
I'll just do it this way. Counselor Devine, no. Counselor Jordan?
Yes.
Counselor Ocasio?
Yes.
And Counselor Givner?
No.
Okay, so that is 3 yeses and 2 nos.
Okay.
So we'll take that to the full city council. Do I hear a motion to do that?
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Okay, so that takes care of that. And
Thank you.
Madam
Jeffrey,
Chair,
yes? Go ahead,
I just have
Counsel.
my hand up, and I'm sure you got a lot going on right now. So I just want for clarification right now, because there was a couple things said. Right now, the vote you just took to vote deny the transfer of the $300,000 from capitalization fund. Now that goes full council with a denied recommendation at full council, right? It's not that we don't vote for it, because we'll still be able to vote for it at the full council. It's just that it's
Yes.
a denied recommendation from finance.
It's not a denied recommendation
All right,
from
then.
finance.
Thank
It's
you.
a positive one, but everyone will get to vote on Tuesday.
Excuse me.
We
Denied
voted,
it.
we recommended it be denied.
And 3 of us said.
3-2.
Okay,
But 3 voted yes on denial.
All
2
right.
voted no.
Okay.
But now it goes back. The council can do, as Council
I
Rivera
get
said,
you.
They can
Okay.
do whatever they want, but
okay.
it's
All right.
coming out 3-2.
Thank you. Just for clarification for the people at
Thank
home.
you.
'cause it was-
Okay, you're
Thank
right,
you.
thank you. Okay, so that takes care of that. And Jeffrey, you'll bring that back on Tuesday?
Yes, it will.
Okay, thank you. All right, so item number 2, ordered that in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the 2024 Mass DEP Recycling Dividends Sustainable Materials Recovery Program 9100 No Match Grant. Move we take it off the table?
Second.
Okay, Carl could not be here today, but I did check with him about this. It's strictly a no-match grant, and it's to sustain recycling that we're constantly doing.
Do you know who's giving us the grant?
Let's see. Tanya, would you know by any chance?
Maybe it's in the
Giving it-
paperwork. I saw there was some.
It's in the
see.
Mass,
Take a
the
look.
Mass DEP.
Mass
Oh, Mass
That's right, I
DEP.
just read
We
that.
get this
okay.
every year.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Mass DEP Recycling Dividends.
All right, lucky for us. Okay. I'll make a motion to be approved.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so moved. All right, so that's that. Okay.
Motion to take item 3 off the
Second.
table.
Second? This is introduced by myself, ordered that there be and is hereby appropriated by transfer of fiscal 2024 $19,861 as follows. From firefighters, total $90,861, to Deputy Fire Chief, $65,588, overtime, $8,307, vacation, personal day buyback, $4,506, sick leave incentive buyback, $12,460, for a total of $90,861. And the chief is here if you want, no, you're with the, please. Okay, so, is the chief coming in?
Chief is stuck at the fire commission meeting right now. He said he's gonna make it here as soon as possible. If you
Okay.
wanted to wait for him.
All right,
So,
motion to table.
All those in favor? Aye, okay. All right, and
Motion to take up item 4.
Second.
ordered that the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, this city council hereby accepts the provisions of the fiscal year 2024 Shannon Community Safety Initiative, $500,076, $814.28, 25% match paid by the recipients. Is there anyone from the police department here?
I am. Sergeant
Okay.
Zerhide.
Surgeons are.
Thank you very much, Sergeant. Could you tell us a little bit about this?
Hello, council. Thank you for having me on tonight. Tonight, we're asking that the City Council Finance Committee accept the FY24 Shannon Community Safety Initiative for $576,814.28. There is a 25% match. It's paid by the recipients. This grant is a long recurring grant. It's from the Executive Office of Public Safety. Holyoke has been lucky enough to be a recipient of this grant for multiple years. We partner with multiple initiatives as well. Those include the Holyoke and Chicopee Boys and Girls Club, Palante, the Holyoke Community College, Hampton County Sheriffs, Mass Hire, and their Center for Resilience and Opportunities Academy. I'd be happy to answer any questions, and also Eileen Cavanaugh, the director of the Holyoke Boys and Girls Club, is on tonight with us, who can fill in any other questions that I might not have the answer to.
Okay, you said Eileen is on Zoom?
Yes, she is.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone.
I wish we'd get rid of that. Okay, so Eileen is here, and so is Sergeant. Does anyone have any questions for them about the Shannon grant? I know that previously, when I was on the city council before, this was a grant that came up a lot, and it was always passed, so, but feel free to ask any questions of either party if you'd like to. There, okay, okay. Did you, Counselor? Izzy,
Yeah.
did you-
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think questions for me are pretty much just data on like what's happened, what's the impact, of where the dollars have been spent over the last, I want to say 10 years or so, because the grant's been around for about 10 years or so. Just for a real quick presentation, if possible. Not that we won't vote yes on it, because it will pass. The dollars are needed in the community for the work that's being done. It's just some sort of check and balance or tracking system where we know how the money is being spent and how it's impacting the community overall. Just, I know the initiative personally, it makes sense, but just again, like I said, a quick check and balance to see where things are going, how is it being spent, and what's the overall impact of the community, versus just us knowing that it's a great initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
So I can answer some of that. Thank you for the question. I appreciate it. It's a great question. For this grant coming up, the FY24, I did send over the council the budget breakdown of
Yes.
where the funds are going to. And regarding the FY23 version, myself and Eileen have been working on submitting the year-end reporting. We've been going through all the reports. Eileen has been a huge part of this, putting together all the data, and we are submitting it both to the state, and we will be sending the closeout report to the city council regarding last year's kind of work that we did and where those funds went.
If I could just add something, I think it's worth stating that the integrity of this grant is certainly real in the fact that we work with a third-party research partner from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, who actually does and helps evaluate each of the Shannon-funded partners. So with no kind of stake in the game, so to say, they're hired directly by the state, by the Executive Office of Public Safety, to evaluate Shannon's partners' effectiveness within the initiative. And so it has been a very long-standing grant with the community of Holyoke. We are very fortunate, and worth knowing that the areas are very specific. It's here to support youth ages 14 to 24 with suppression, intervention, and prevention activities. And so we specifically are dealing with agencies and organizations who are directly working with that age group specifically. Around doing prevention services in particular. And so, like Sergeant Zurheide, had said, that we are in the middle, our FY23 grant literally just finished up as of the end of December. So we're in the middle of compiling our FY23 data, but would certainly have FY22 data that I think was presented to you with last year's grant, showing the impact that the grant has had. I also want to say that this is a competitive annual grant. And the reality is if we weren't doing the work, we wouldn't get the money. And that's certainly very true with the state in particular. And so not only are we fulfilling a year-end final report, but we're also doing mid-year reports periodically throughout the state. They've come and done site visits with our Shannon partners. So this is a really well monitored program through the state as well.
Thank you. As Councilor Rivera mentioned, could
Yes.
you?
No, go ahead. I thought you were going to ask me to say something. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to agree with what you were saying, and you still had your hand up, so I wasn't sure if you still wanted a question. But what I was going to suggest is that perhaps quarterly, the city council could get something in writing that shows what you've been doing with the grant so far. Is that possible?
Madam Chair, if I may, I think there might be something that could solve that, right? Eileen spoke to the fact that they have a team that specifically evaluates a lot of the programming. So I think with a lot of that data that's coming out of that, if they could just come to the council along with everyone else that's partnered within there, it's a variety of different partners. If they could just come one day and present at public safety the impact of it's had over the last 5 to 7 years with some of that data, that would suffice, I think.
Okay. Perhaps you could file an order when you feel the time is
I'll do that.
appropriate? Okay.
Yeah, I'll
and
do that.
And then we can send it to public safety.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or?
I had a couple.
Yes,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Ready. Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. So, let's see here. Let me just get my notes. Let's see, one more page. Here we go. I wanted to ask, I don't know if it's Ms. Kavanaugh from the Boys Club or who would be able to help me with this, but one of them was this Palante Transformative Justice Program. I see they have a couple individuals in here. One person's making $30 an hour, another person's making $50 an hour. But one, I don't know how those wages were achieved or how that was garnered, but then they have another person who I guess gets $400 a day, 25 days of the year. But I noticed that on one of them, they're receiving $14,987, but they have a match of $45,000. That was the only one where they're actually providing a match bigger than allegedly the amount of money they're receiving. And I was just trying to understand sort of how did that get calculated?
Kevin, what
So-
page are you on?
This is
I think
on
I can
page
answer,
2 of 5.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Sergeant, do you mind if I think I might be able to answer that question?
No,
So when
by all means.
we require, if you are a Shannon-funded partner, we're requiring a 25%, a minimum of a 25% match. But it certainly can be more if you have the funding to support that. And so the reality is that Palante has several other funding sources that are coming into that agency to do the work they're doing. And so the Shannon funds are supporting only a small portion of the overall work that Palante is taking care of within the community. And so the $45,000 match that they put in is actually an additional grant award that they had received that could be used as a funding source for that position. So they put in the total grant award is what it is.
Okay.
And in terms of the consulting work that majority of Palante is getting funded, and so you referred to the hourly positions, those are consultants that are providing community trainings and staff trainings for Palante, youth trainings in particular, around the restorative circle work that's being done. And so according to the grant, actually, a consultant can get paid up to $150 an hour for work done. And so that the $50 is certainly not an overreach for consultant work.
For public sector work, they're gonna allow up to $150 an hour? Does that sound?
They would. And I don't know what I'm not sure what you consider public sector work, but yes.
What we're
that
doing
is the-
here, that's what we're,
Yeah.
these are
Yeah.
allegedly nonprofits.
Yeah. So they're working also with additional agencies and organizations to provide the training and consultation work. So it's going either to an individual or another agency or organization, but that is within the parameters of the grant.
One of them, in terms of quote unquote consulting, it says alumni fellow. So this is presumably somebody who's actually graduated from the program, presumably. And that person is classified now as a consultant. And that's why they would qualify for $30 an hour, 40 hours a week, 52. Typically, when you see a consultant, they come in and they work, maybe do a day training, or they do a day training once a month. This is a 2,080 hour position. That's a full-time FTE. That's a consultant.
Yeah, so not all of them are consultants within that line item. Palante does have, so the alumni fellow that's there at the 52 weeks is actually a staff position.
You had said
So it is a staff who works at Palante conducting the work. And so it's a combination. The way that the budget is set up, because the subrecipients are all considered under contracts, it's everything. So there's staffing positions and consulting work going on within that section. So that alumni fellow position is an actual staff position that the grant is supporting a portion of it, of their time and work.
Well, not a portion. It's got to be the whole thing, right? Or
Well, no, it's supporting a little under 15,000 of it, and then they're matching it, right?
I see.
Yeah.
I see. So the
So-
position's paid 60 grand and we're paying 15 of it. So we're paying
Exactly. Well,
25%.
the state is paying 15 grand of it. Yes.
Right,
Yeah. For the staffing position. Yes.
right. Through the grant. Yeah,
Through the grant.
got
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So it's not.
And in terms of my overarching question is, this has been, and I've seen many, many of these. It's a wonderful program, and the state gives out these dollars. Is there ever at a point where, and I think others have mentioned this earlier, but I'll get right to it, is we've done all this for decades now of the Shannon Grant that shows actual crime is going down in these age groups, because I believe a lot of this is to target youth, crime, theoretically, right? And re-intervention and redirection into positive lifestyles. So do we have any reports or anything analytical that shows crime in Holyoke has gone down in these categories over this period of time?
We would have our local action research partner and could certainly ask them to aggregate the data over a certain period of time. We typically, because this is an annual grant or a calendar year grant, we are only aggregating annual data, but we can certainly show that. I think it's important and to be mindful that this is one portion, this is kind of one piece of the pie that addresses youth violence in a community, right? It's certainly not the end all to be all. As you know about our community, many people are in and out of our community frequently and often. Quite honestly, youth laws have changed with respects to arrests, and so the data is certainly going to be different. But we can certainly ask, and to Councilor Rivera's point, where if we are asked to come present, we would be able to certainly show and demonstrate a trend report over a certain number of years of the impact that Shannon has had on Holyoke.
Well, that's a good point you raised, because I know I left the Department of Youth Services in 2003, and at that time, the department itself is a shell of what it used to be. I mean, for example, the Westfield Detention Center, I think 1 of 4 pods is occupied today. Same with Springfield at RFK. Caseloads of caseworkers like me, where I probably had 70 kids approximately on my caseload at the time. I would be surprised if there's 150 kids entirely in Western Massachusetts to DYS now. And we used to have, oh my goodness, I mean, we must have probably had tenfold the number of committed youth that we had then. And the question is, has the crime gone down? Probably not. It's just that we're not actually committing youth through the juvenile court anymore. But the question is, I guess then, is what would be the metric, since that's the obvious one for youth violence, when we were using the juvenile court. But today, is it there's fewer arrests? Like, are you surveying the Chicopee PD, Holyoke PD, Springfield PD, these different areas, or whoever's within this service area, and saying, yeah, we have less youth being arrested, we have, truancy has improved, or, all these different metrics that we use on youth stuff. Obviously, you wouldn't have known to answer these questions for tonight, but if you could follow up with the council at some later date, say in a month or so, I would be interested to read those reports that says, looking back at Shannon over 20 years, this is what we can see, this has improved. Because although the kids have changed, obviously, the point is, did the Massachusetts taxpayer who pays for all this get a good bang for their dollar, right? Like, we're actually making a difference, and more than anecdotally. So I think that would be interesting to look at. Thank you.
Certainly, and I would encourage you in the meantime to go to the mass.gov website under the Shannon Community Safety Initiative, and they have actually program brief that are where it's data that's aggregated across the state, to your point, Councilor Devine, and then also very specific to each of the Shannon community sites across the state that would have our data published publicly on the website as well. But I can certainly, like I said, at a future date, when invited, would be happy to present that as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Councilor Sullivan?
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if this is for you, Eileen, or for anybody else on the committee. Can somebody tell me, is Palante, I always was under the assumption that was a political action committee. Is that how they're set up?
No, this is a restorative justice.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you. Volante is not a political action committee. They're a youth what's it called, like a civic participatory engagement nonprofit. They're focused mostly on their main focus is educating youth on and empowering them on taking civic agency over themselves and over pretty much what they see fit within the community. They were before stationed or located within the school system, but they've kind of like broken off and became their own nonprofit. They actually bought a house, I believe, somewhere up by Wisteria Hurst. Myself and Councilor Givner actually presented to some of the youth on some of the issues with regards to the city, and they have a significant size group of youth that are at-risk youth that actually are engaged with civic pride, pretty much. They asked us significant questions. One of them actually lives in South Holyoke and was asking about who their counselor was, and I told them that it was Miss Ocasio, and that one day that I would be able to facilitate a meeting for them because they live in the community. So like it's not what you think it is with regards to that, but I think that to answer some of the questions that Councilor Jordan had brought up with regards to like the actual bang for the buck, I have to say I did work there for like 2 years when I first came out of prison myself. And to say that some of the youth that we worked with back then, and to see them now, which is almost 10 years from now, some of them actually work for us as DPW workers driving trucks and doing the trash. And other ones have their own small businesses and they're successful in their own right. This is why I'm kind of asking for them to do this kind of full glimpse of what's happened over the last several years so that we could see the positive outcomes. And usually the benchmarks are how much more engaged are these youth with nonprofit agencies, with the school, with the police, and all the other people than they were before. That's how they measure it. It's hard to measure crime, and it's hard to measure consistency of crime. The way they try to measure it is more engagement with positive institutions, for more or less. Thank you again.
Thank you, Counselor. And also, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I don't have my calendar with me, but on the 28th, they're having an open house, 5 o'clock-ish, something like that. So I would certainly urge people to attend that. And I want to say it's on Linden Street, maybe 220 Linden Street.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I would think we all got that invitation. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay,
Motion to approve the,
Second?
okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Motion to take up item, what was it, 3?
3 off the table, yep.
right. Thank you. And the chief is here, thank you very much. Oh, no, I've been there. I know, I forgot it's Monday, yeah. All right, so we've read the order, so I'm sure you have that with you. You can come in and sit down if you want, and just press the button so the green light is on. And I do have the, okay. And so maybe you could explain a little bit about this.
Okay, this is a transfer to fund the contract that the deputy chiefs just negotiated with the city. It's in line with the contract that the firefighters negotiated with the city. It's money we've had due to some vacancies that we've had that we're in the process of starting to fill now, but based on the timelines to fill those positions gives us the money to cover this.
Okay, any questions? Counselor Jordan?
Yeah, thank you. Chief, welcome. Can you walk us through, there's a couple pages in the settlement agreement of the different language changes and cost changes. Can you just kind of walk through what those are and the meaning and significance of some of these? Obviously, we have a 3, it looks like 2.5% wage increase plus something about active shooter requirement. You'll have to tell us about that. And then there's a 2.5 plus a 1%, something to do with active shooters. So it looks like it's 3, 4, 3.5 for rate increases for the deputies. And then like, was there any comparison as to like how their contract compares to the others and then the neighboring communities? Are we about the same? We less? We more? That's why they gave this for an increase for the deputies. And then these different language issues, if you could just kind of walk us through what's going on here.
Okay. The raises, the percentages for the active shooter is that new requirement that basically it changed everything for the firefighters in general, fire department in general. We take a more active role in active shooter and hostile event. So it's not just limited to active shooter. It would be like any kind of hostile event where if you had a bombing, if you had this, if you had that, it kind of falls in under that umbrella. And it kind of puts us at more of a forward role, where in the past we would sit in a cold area and we would wait for the police to mitigate the situation before we even thought about going in and starting to treat people. Through a lot of these, unfortunately, events that they've had over the years in the United States, it came to light that with a more active rescue intervention, they were able to save more people. So it puts them in a role where they're, again, going into more of a warm zone, as opposed to kind of look at it like hazmat, more of a warm zone to start mitigating the situation, which puts them at a different risk than they used to be.
I see. So, for example, if there was some, God forbid, some active shooter situation at the mall or some sort of large store type of situation, potentially you would be coming in, or your team would be coming in to help like rescue people? Or
yes, part of like a rescue task force, and then they'd have like a forward staging that they'd be able to send a rescue task force in that are now in more of a exposed environment than they would have been in the past, where we would be way away and we'd just be waiting for them in, a safe area, waiting for them to mitigate the situation. It now puts them into that more forward area with a patrolman who's going to go through with them as like cover while they take care of these incidents.
So your team would have to do a lot, I'm sure, additional training as a result of all of this.
Exactly, and that's all starting now within the state. We bought we bought the tactical gear now for our firefighters and them to use for these situations. Would be a vest and a helmet and medic kits that they can go in, and they have tourniquets and other things that they can use to do life-saving measures early and hopefully save more people. Hopefully, like I said, you don't want to ever have to use it.
Right, of course.
But with that being said, it gives them the tools that they need to do it in as safe a way as possible.
Interesting. Okay, great. Thank you for that. That's very helpful. So if you could just kind of walk through some of these other ones, because by the way, Chief, and just for the law department, I don't know if they're listening here or not, but I see Attorney Bissonette is on. We do have an ordinance, and we do request that the line item, we were supposed to get a red line of the change.
Okay.
This still doesn't give us the red line. There's actually an ordinance requirement to show us what the old language is to the new language.
Like a track change.
And we're supposed to get a financial analysis. I don't know if we got that from the auditor or not, but we're supposed to get a financial analysis as to what the total impact was. I don't know if this is full year, half year, the 90,000, or
That is for 2 years. So that would be
last fiscal year.
last fiscal year
And
and
this
this,
one.
fiscal year,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Okay, so if you could walk us through kind of this, it looks like there's something about agency service fees, and then something about some language about overtime first 30 minutes, all of that.
Yes, so they rolled in Juneteenth in accordance with everyone else as part of the holidays
Yep,
schedule.
got it.
They're just the last entity to do that.
Got that.
Under personal liability of employees.
Could you walk through 1 and 2 first, please?
Oh, okay. That's language that they had to change in 1. I believe that's something that the lawyers had them do to fall in line with new law.
Okay.
They deleted the first 30 minutes. What that's in regards to is our callback overtime. So what it is when we send out mutual aid or receive mutual aid from other communities, whether we send it to like Chicopee or we receive it from Chicopee, at the 30-minute mark, we had to do a callback and start calling personnel back. We didn't have any discretion at that point within the contract. The union had actually gone to an hour, giving us an hour within it. Instead of 30 minutes. The deputy chiefs eliminated it altogether and put it at the chief's discretion as to when we start a callback of personnel.
So that's beneficial to you then?
It's beneficial to me and the city, where
Yeah.
we have more discretion as to when it's needed to call people back.
Okay. So personal liability, you were...
That's when it comes to light duty. When someone's on light duty, it was 30 days before you could call them back to light duty. They would be able to be out of work. we've lowered that to 14 days now.
Okay.
And what we find is it's just better to get people back to work instead of having them out. It keeps them connected, and I think it just helps them in getting back to work and being ready to get back to work.
So that also is beneficial to the
It
city?
definitely
Yeah.
benefits the
Yeah,
city, yes.
yeah, okay, great. And I know you and I have talked extensively about workplace injuries and the cost of that and the cost on overtime and light duty and all
Exactly.
that, so this is helpful.
It definitely is.
Yeah, thank you, Chief.
Their personal day rolling.
Yep,
What that does is basically on a personal day, the way it works with our vacation schedule. So a vacation day, and this goes to what we'd like to see from all entities. With a personal day, the normal time someone would take a personal day is when someone else on your apparatus is off on a vacation day. And normally what that personal day does is cause overtime. So most personal days that are taken within the Hoyoke Fire Department end up having a resultant of us having to hire time and a half. So with getting that out of it, it starts limiting that overtime exposure. So you kind of start with an entity that's ready to do it, and you see if maybe the next entity is ready to sell some of those back also. And as they sell it back, it's mutually beneficial. They get some money in their base pay, and we get the fact that they have less ability to take time off, with others hopefully lowering the overtime costs for the city. So it ends up, I think that's a mutually beneficial one.
sort of a wash.
Exactly,
Yeah.
but it's definitely a benefit for the city.
Okay. 7 and 8 don't need really any explanation. Those are just statutory ones. And how about number 8, the out of grade pay?
Number 9.
Oh, excuse me, number 9, thank you.
What that does is right now at this point, if something were to happen to me, God forbid, and I was out for an extended period of time, it gives them a pay scale if they're in there for more than 60 days in the chief's position. to
But
go.
under the 60, if you weren't out, they would get their normal pay?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. So
And
it's
what is it?
really
What is it
only
currently? What's the standard now, or there isn't? a
right now.
standard?
There's nothing. So what it does is it gives them something if they're in there for an extended period of time over 60 days
I see.
to be paid, because you're kind of at that point interim chief at that point if you're gone for
That would be obviously very odd to have the fire chief out in your case or anybody's
for,
case
for more than
2
60
months.
days. Yeah, there would be something going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, then the last part is fine. All right. Thank you
Okay.
for walking us through that. We appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Anybody else have a question or concern or?
Make a motion to be approved.
Oh, you have,
Second.
oh, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved, okay. Motion, do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn?
So
thank you,
Okay, so
councilors.
moved,
Thank
thank
you.
you very
Have a good
much.
night.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, don't
Oh,
worry-
no,
don't worry
that's
about
okay.
Don't do it again.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye-bye.